There's two things that stops a person from gaining knowledge. And number one is arrogance, and the second thing is shyness. Those are the two things that will stop a person from ever learning or gaining knowledge.
Assalamu alaikum, viewers and listeners. Welcome back to another episode of Side by Side. I have with me today Shabbir Hassan, the founder of Nikah Co, a leading bespoke nikah service provider.
My dream after becoming a hafiz, what have I memorized? What is the meaning of all of this? I'm parroting it and I'm repeating it every Ramadan in Taraweeh, but I have no understanding of what any of this means. We don't have a good infrastructure, which means that the level of Islamic education, the caliber of our imams is hampered.
What made you go into poetry?
I did used to listen to rap music and I was heavily influenced by that. It's a type of poetry.
How did the Nikah Co come about?
Find a problem and you try and solve that problem. That's ultimately what it is. You're going to always get calls later on down the line to certain issues. The worst one was probably when one bride called me and said, my husband beat me.
Now, before we introduce our guest, ladies and gentlemen, supporters and well-wishers, if you are enjoying our contents on Side by Side, please do consider subscribing to our channel on the platform you are tuned into. It is your subscription that motivates us to keep edging forward episode by episode. And inshallah, with you by our side and your support, we will reach the top. With that being said, please help me welcome to the studio Shabbir Hassan. Assalamu alaikum, brother Shabbir. Welcome to Side by Side.
Thank you for having me, and it's nice to be on this side of the, of the table. Normally, I'm in the hosting spot.
Alhamdulillah. Let's see what we can find from you, inshallah. What we can learn from you. Generally, people think we're just out to expose people. No, it's about learning and learning from the story and the journey, and taking away small nuggets, inshallah.
Inshallah.
So before we begin, obviously you've driven all the way from Peterborough. How was your drive?
Good, alhamdulillah. I'm used to it now. I'm always commuting, driving to London and other cities for nikahs and weddings and events and things. So, and my family, they live in Devon actually, as in my parents. That's where I was born and brought up, in Devon. So sometimes when I speak to Londoners and I say I was born in Exeter, they say to me, which country is that in? I'm like, you guys are in such a bubble. You need to get out of London sometimes, But yeah, it's quite far. So I'm just used to driving long distances.
I always thought you were in London, actually.
No, not at all. I came here to study and worked here for a little while. And as soon as I found an opportunity to get out, I got out.
Amazing.
From London.
Now, obviously, mashallah, you're a hafiz. So it doesn't make sense to start the show without a recitation from yourself.
Oh.
So bismillah, give us some recitation.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين.
MashaAllah, Jazakallah khairan. Really appreciate it, man. Beautiful. Now, next question. Actually, next question is two questions into one.
Okay.
What are your two greatest fears?
Two greatest fears. I was hoping you would only ask for one, to be honest, because just asking
because
for
we've
one
had
is like
the same answer way too many times. Now we have to expand the horizon a bit.
The box, right? Okay, I'll give you two. One I will give in terms of this worldly life, and then the next is in terms of the next life, inshallah. So if my greatest fear in this world is probably not even to do with me, myself, it's probably just losing the people closest to you. I was at a funeral recently, and I think that was the thing that was playing on my mind the most, which is, subhanAllah, one day that could be my own parents, it could be my own siblings, it could be my own wife, it could be my own children. And I don't know how I'm going to deal with that, to be honest with you, because it was a close relative, and even then it was difficult. But then imagine when it's so close to home, your own family. So I think that's one of my biggest fears here, which is losing a very close family member. How to deal with it, how to process it. And obviously it's part of life. So I think that's the first. In terms of the next life, it's always played on my mind. And this is essentially doing all of the things that we're doing here, all of the good that we hope that we're doing, and then being bankrupt. So what I mean by that is, of course, not bankruptcy in worldly terms, but bankruptcy in the akhirah terms, which is you turn up and you think, okay, mashallah, I was a hafiz, I was an imam, I did all of these things, I prayed and so on. And then you turn up and nothing's accepted. And you've got, it's null and void. I think that for me would be, it is my biggest fear. And I think that's something that we should constantly make dua for, and it's something I try to make dua, which is, Allah, firstly, accept the good that we're doing, because without that qabuliyah, without the acceptance, is nothing. And then secondly, don't make me bankrupt on the Day of Judgment when it's really going to count. And this is why we should be in constant pursuit of, doing as much good and never belittling a small good thing, like something as small as a salam or a smile or something like that. You never know which good deed is gonna push you over the edge and get you there. So I think those are my two biggest fears.
SubhanAllah. It is really scary, because one thing we know, two things are guaranteed: our birth and our death.
Mm-hmm.
And the way Allah has kept it very secret, it's like exam, but this exam, there is no clue, there is no guidance. Yes, you're supposed to do all of this, but it's like when I go to bank and, deposit some money or something. Nowadays you can't do that anyway, but you get a receipt, we've accepted your money and, we've taken it on board. But with this one, as you were saying, it is scary, man. You turn up and, nothing. It's all reject, void. SubhanAllah.
It's very scary.
It is scary. And especially, I think, people who are trying to propagate Islam as well. For them, it's even more scarier, because Shaitan plays in so many different ways, in different angles with different people. And with people that are of knowledge, he will come at them from the angle of knowledge.
And they know more, and there's more responsibility that comes with that. The more you know, at least, I think, was it Imam Ghazali? He mentioned this amazing example, right? He said that, never, he was discussing arrogance, and he said, never look down on anyone, right? So, for example, someone older should never look down on someone younger, because at least the younger person has the excuse that, well, you're older than me, you have more experience, so therefore I can be let off the hook. And likewise, a person of knowledge should never look down on someone who's ignorant, because at least the ignorant person on the Day of Judgment can say, well, I didn't know, but this person knew. Does that make sense? He keeps giving these examples, that you just never know. Even to the extent he says that even a Muslim should not look down on a non-Muslim, because the non-Muslim can say, well, at least, you had the da'wah, you had the knowledge of Islam. I didn't even have that. They're just basically saying, there's always an excuse for someone, and you should never, look down on anyone.
Absolutely, because, when we challenge people with certain things, maybe accountability, we give them feedback, oh, you've done this wrong. And straight away, immediately, people want to wiggle out of the accountability.
Yeah.
And when we do this day in, day out, and I think us being Muslims is a blessed thing. We take it for granted. We were born into a Muslim family. And we look down on people that are not guided, or people that are not on the same path.
Yeah.
And it disturbs me a lot. Obviously we're here in this country to give dawah, to spread the deen of Islam, but we're not doing that anymore. And instead of not doing that, we're also looking down on other people, and not just English people, every different type of people. Yeah. And as you said, we shouldn't look down on people.
Yeah, and it's up to us. The question I think we need to ask ourselves is, have we done enough? And I don't think there's anyone who can claim or make the claim that, yes, I've done enough, I'm okay, I'm good. So this is why, it's a different topic, but I know a lot of people nowadays are talking about Hijrah. moving out of this country, going elsewhere. It's a topic in and of itself. I'm not going to discuss it now. Firstly, I don't believe that you going to Dubai is Hijrah. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm just going to put it out there, slightly controversial. That's not Hijrah. You're going for other reasons. Maybe it's a Muslim country and so on, right? But I don't think that's going to save your Islam. I think there's underlying reasons. You've got a good career out there. There's a good job. You're not paying taxes. There's good weather. There's a lot of bonuses that come with it, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that's the Hijrah in and of itself. But in terms of, okay, let's say we had a serious discussion. Should we leave right now or not? For me, I'd say, this is my stance, and I get that people may disagree with me. My thing is, I don't feel like I've done enough here. I feel like I've got a responsibility. I've got a job to do here. If everyone just leaves, all the Muslims tomorrow get up and leave, who's going to contribute here? Who's going to give da'wah here? Who's going to contribute to any khair and good here? So my thing is, there's still a job to do. Let's do that job. In the future, let's see. But for right now, in the immediate future, there's still a lot of work to be done.
MashaAllah. Now, you said you were from Exeter.
Yeah.
I mean, one wouldn't assume. I know the only other person that I know of that's from Exeter or Devon is Ali Official.
Everyone says that. Everyone says
so
that.
he's marketed it well. I mean, the Devon council or the authorities, they should really make him an ambassador for the...
Everyone says that, right? So, and I make a joke. I'm like, basically, the only two Asians that you know is me and Ali Official, basically, right? From those ends. But yeah, it's basically, he's from another town not far from Exeter. We actually know each other from back in those days. And we actually moved to London the same year, which is quite interesting. And then obviously, mashallah, he had his own journey. He went on to do, I had my own journey. But yeah, basically that's Devon for you. It was a 99 or 98.5% white population. We were some of the only Muslims growing up. And that's actually where my journey began. I never forget my roots. Even now, I go back to Exeter, 25 years on, 20 years on. And I look at it and there's a purpose-built masjid and there's a huge Muslim community. And I think back to my early days and I'm like, man, we had none of this. And in fact, this is what sparked the journey for me, which is I wanted to memorize Quran. I wanted to become an alim. I wanted to do some of these things. And I couldn't do it in Exeter because we didn't have the resources. We didn't have the people there. So this is why I went to places like Leicester. I went to places like London. I traveled and I made the most out of what I have here. And alhamdulillah, this is the last 15 years I've been spending just traveling up and down, away from home, away from family, studying, learning, gaining experience. And it all started because we didn't have anything on our doorstep in Exeter. And I always share this with people in London and major cities. I say, you guys are lucky, man. You come to East London, you come to certain areas. You've got masjids, madrasas, institutes. You've got events. You've got so much going on. Trust me, there are parts of the UK till this day that, again, you don't know if you've never even heard of the town. You will never have heard of it.
You would say which country is it?
Yeah, you would say which country is it in. But trust me, they don't have any of these things. So... Yes,
well, at least you had Indian food or Bangladeshi food.
Of course,
for sure.
Everywhere we go, there's a restaurant, and my father was part of the restaurant trade.
When you went to school, you were born in Exeter.
Yeah.
So when you went to school, how was school like? Were you seen differently, or people in Exeter, are they quite more? Are they friendlier than people from London?
I would say generally they're friendlier. Definitely, they're very warm, accepting. Growing up, we didn't really have so much of an issue, but as a kid in school, that's a different ball game.
What was it like?
You can't control kids. Kids are different. It was. I'm not gonna sit here and complain. It was okay, alhamdulillah. But it's just the standard stuff in it. Standard racism, standards, getting singled out sometimes. It's not everyone. We always get.
To be honest, that happens in predominantly Muslim schools as
it happens.
well.
That's why I'm not gonna sit here and make it a sob story. I went through this. I just think it happened.
It's just part of secondary school.
It's part of the experience, and it helps you gain I guess learn something from it.
Wow. And then so being a father of two young children.
One currently.
Myself.
Oh, yourself.
You're one.
Yeah. I'm one.
So I'm father of two.
Mashallah.
And worry. The biggest worry right now is as they are, one is 10, one is 6.
Mashallah.
And I want them to automatically pick things like you have picked, like memorizing Quran, going to madrasa, going to Islamic institutions. But at the same time, I don't want to enforce something because my worry is, what if they rebel? What would you advise a father like me how do you navigate this worry?
you used an interesting word, which is rebel. And I've seen that from my own friends and colleagues, because a lot of them, when I was doing the same thing, the difference was between us that even though we were doing the same thing, reading the same things in the same classroom, the difference was that I wanted to be there, and some of them were literally there because their parents put them there and they had no choice. And I saw the kind of things that they started doing and their behavior and what they ended up, getting involved in. Like I said, the big difference is that you have to want to do it. And as a child, alhamdulillah, Allah put something in my heart, as young as 9, 10 years old, that I wanted to memorize Quran. I wanted to go into this, despite the fact that I was in Exeter. And this is the thing, that sometimes it's not just about environment. Like environment is a big thing. But you could be in East London, surrounded by masjids and with Muslims all around, but you might not have that, And I am in Exeter with barely any Muslims around, no sense of Islam. But there's some, firstly, it comes from Allah. And secondly, I think it has to come from the child as well. But the most important ingredient is you have to nurture the love of Islam in the heart. So nowadays what we try to do is we try to push Islam down the throats of the children, right? So no, you have to do this. But we never explain to them, why do we go to the masjid? Why do we dress like this? Why do we speak like this? Why do we recite Quran? They don't have a sense of love. They're just doing it because it's like, oh, my dad's doing it, so I kind of just need to follow. My dad's going to the masjid. Okay, he told me when you go to the masjid, shut up and be quiet, go in that corner, don't speak. Okay, I'm just going to follow these rules. He told me that if I ever do something bad, Allah's going to come and punish me. Okay. That's not a sense of true love and genuine love for the deen.
This is just fear tactics.
It's fear tactics. So I think if you can inspire or instill love within the child of Islam, this is the biggest thing. And all I would say is, and you know what, growing up, before even I got married, I used to think, yeah, that's it. If I I'm a hafiz, whatever. When I have children, 100%, my child is going to become hafiz. And I think as the years now go by and you mature a bit and you experience a bit, now you think, you know what? Even if my child does not go on to do the things I did and become a hafiz, become an alim, etc., you know what? As long as my child has good character and a love for Islam, alhamdulillah. Honestly, because making them a hafiz is not going to mean that you've made it. The main thing is that they have a genuine love for Islam. They've got good character, good morals. They carry themselves in that way. They're proud of their Muslim identity. And I wouldn't complain if they have that.
There are hafiz who have the Quran in their heart, but they don't really maybe evaluate or perhaps do the opposite.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad to see. So this is why I'm very, I think, from my journey and from the people I've seen and people who have done similar things, and then I know the reality behind it. People would just see them as hafiz, mashallah, beard, mashallah. But because I spent time with them, I know, and obviously, I'm fearful of that because that could be me.
Yeah.
So I think based on that, I just think, you know what, it's not just about the title. It's not. You have to focus on the other things, and if you focus on those other things, it's actually more worthy. It's better. It's more superior than the title itself.
How do we navigate through this? This social media is not just getting us parents; it's getting the younger children as well.
Yeah.
And they are glued on to. Before there was TV where it's quite controlled what they are watching. Now it's out of control. No matter how much parental control you put in, things are getting fed into their brain. I once recently spotted my children listening to this thing, and he goes something like, "I'm not a boy, I'm not a girl." I'm like, whoa, what's this? This is crazy. And this is what's the FYP of YouTube Shorts. The likes of Shorts are feeding our children.
Yeah.
And these stuff are crazy, man. It's scary.
It's very scary, and there's only so much you can control. I think either you go completely old school and you take the phone off them. Growing up, I don't know how it was for you, but like my dad was very strict until I was 16. Basically, when I started college, no phone, absolutely no. And obviously at the time I was like, what on earth is this? I'm 14, I'm a teenager, I need a phone. No, I didn't need a phone. I thought I did need a phone. And nowadays you could argue safety, this, that. Come on, let's be honest. We're in safer times than ever, right? There's so much technology and cameras everywhere. So like you could go old school like that. Is it going to work? I don't know. Can I do that to my own child? I don't know, because she's not old enough yet. So maybe growing up, I'll have to assess the situation. So you could do that. And when I was 16, I got my phone. Even then it was controlled. I knew, okay, I can't mess about with things.
Yeah.
Now obviously we're in a different age compared to when I was 16 now, and a 16-year-old today is different. You've got, like you said, the algorithm, you've got all of these apps and things. So either you're going to go completely old school, or you're not going to give them a phone at all, which you use the word rebel and you don't want to see that.
Yeah.
Or you try and control it as much as you can, right? Which is, you put measures in place, or, like I said, the tarbiyah needs to be correct. I think as parents, tarbiyah is the most important thing. So for those who aren't aware, tarbiyah basically means it's nurturing the child in the most correct Islamic way, the most proper manner. Again, instilling that love of Islam, instilling the fear of God, having that balance of things. And then ultimately, you have to leave it to Allah and leave it to the child. You're not going to look over them for the rest of their lives, are you?
100%.
So I think, as parents, I think that's ultimately, you just got to keep making dua, do the best job that you can of tarbiyah. And then what can you do after that? Honestly, you can't. Sometimes the child's going to make a mistake. They need to learn the hard way. Other times they'll do good things. So for me, it's like, I don't want to overthink these things either.
No, you're right. That's hearing this is comforting for me.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, because you go on the overthinking mode. Oh my God, what's going to happen?
It's very easy to.
You see all these things are happening around you, this person's child and that person's child. And, you think, whoa, what if that happens to me? What if that's me? What if I'm that father?
Yeah.
It's scary. But it is comforting, alhamdulillah. Now, one of my father's wish was I memorize Quran. Now, I have memorized up to 6th juz.
Okay.
And then that was like year 2000. And I didn't want to do it anymore. I don't know, for whatever reason. And it's that comparison, where you said, where you wanted to be somewhere. And because you wanted to be there, you soaked in all the information and knowledge. But with me, it was opposite. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to go Ebrahim College, and I wanted to slowly disengage myself from this education path, because I wanted to get into work and stuff like that. But his dying wish, I think, still remained where I needed to be a hafiz. Now I am 38, very busy with so many things going on. How can I start my journey, and how long will it take for me to complete my journey?
I can't tell you how long it will take. That's up to you. That's an individual thing. The average for a young student is 3 years, 3.5 years. You can do the whole Quran memorized. That was the average for us. That's how long it took us. But I will give you a story which will inshallah give you some hope, which is that when I was memorizing Quran in our class, obviously it's all mainly children, and I was maybe my 12 years old, 13 years old, something like that. But there was one uncle in our class who used to join. And when I say uncle, again, I don't mean old, I mean 40 years old, right? His own kids were in the same madrasa, but he had the intention to memorize Quran. So he would come every day and join us as well. But he would come late, because obviously he used to work the whole day. Then he used to come. So he used to always come late every day, but he used to come every single day. And he showed up, and it took him double the time than it took us. So many of us, we started after him, we finished before him. But the main thing is, the moral of the story is that he kept at it, and alhamdulillah, he became hafiz a few years later than us. So it took him maybe double the time, 6 years, whatever, I don't know how long it took him. But I always look back at that and I was like, subhanAllah, that uncle, he did it. And he was in our class. It was so weird seeing, I still remember he had a ginger beard, and he used to sit in front of us, he used to recite. I was like, it's so weird, like there's all kids here.
Yeah.
But you know what? As one of the scholars once said, right? There's 2 things that stops a person from gaining knowledge. What are those 2 things? Number 1 is arrogance, and the second thing is shyness. Those are the 2 things that will stop a person from ever learning or gaining knowledge. Number 1, arrogance, where you think, I already know it anyway, so I don't need to learn more. Obviously, that's going to stop you and prevent you from learning knowledge. But then the second one is shyness. People get shy. Oh no, I can't do alif ba ta. I'm 30. No, that's kid stuff, They get too shy. Oh, I don't want to ask this question to the sheikh. What if it's a stupid question? And then what happens? They miss out on learning something. This is the biggest barrier for those of us who are a bit older now, into our 30s, etc. Or we're parents now, we're seeing our children. But we can't let shyness prevent us from learning, whether it's memorizing Quran or otherwise. I think it's just a case of like anything in life. You come from a business background, there's many people who are talking about starting a business, and then there's some people who just go and do it. They make mistakes. It takes them a long time to learn it, but they do it in the end, and they gain some success further down the line. I'll use that same business formula for hifz, memorizing Quran.
Amazing. Would you recommend seeing a teacher, having a teacher
100%.
that monitors your
100%.
progress?
That's probably one of the most important factors, which is having a teacher. And by the way, when I say teacher, even it could just be a colleague, someone who's already a hafiz. It doesn't have to be like so formal, but just having someone overseeing it, someone who's done it before, who knows their stuff. So have a teacher, have some consistency. And the last thing I would say is if you can find some space in your mornings to memorize, you'll do it. Do not do it. Do not try and memorize Quran in the middle of the day, at the end of the day, nighttime. You can't. Your brain's not functioning, especially if you're a parent, you got business, you got work. You're not going to have enough capacity in your brain to memorize Quran at the end of the day. So what do you do first thing in the morning? Take out 10-15 minutes and try and memorize a few lines then.
10-15 minutes, is that it?
No, it depends on how much you want to learn. But if you want to start with a few lines, 10-15 minutes, you just dedicate, right? Morning time is the time of barakah, and it's the time of memorization, and it is a tradition. If you look in our scholarship over the centuries, you'll find the great scholars of our past, it was in the early mornings when they achieved the most. The books that you have today in front of you, it's a product of morning success. The memorizing Quran and all of these memorizing things that happen, it's a product of people waking up early in the morning and doing it. And now, mashallah, you've got CEOs and entrepreneurs and all of these successful gurus and people who are saying what? I wake up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. I do this. And, wow, we look at them like worldly success. Wow, they've achieved so much because they wake up so early. There's something already there in our tradition that tells us about the morning time where there's a lot of barakah.
Wow. Hey guys, I hope you have been enjoying today's episode of Side by Side with myself and our guest, Shabbir Hassan from the Nikah Co, a leading bespoke nikah service provider. If you are enjoying our content on Side by Side today, please do consider subscribing to our channel on the platform you are tuned into. So morning, it has to be mornings because, I do Adhkar, I do Surah Yasin.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
My uncle told me you do Surah Yasin, your day will go well.
Yep.
And wallahi, since I implemented that into my life, sometimes I forget and I delay it, and then I'm thinking I'm going to do it in the evening. It usually doesn't happen. You're in bed and you're tired and your brain just switches off automatically. So when I do it in the morning, 20 minutes all it takes, my adhkar and Surah Yasin and all of that. And it's consistent. You just do it and you just feel so much better throughout the day.
Aren't those 20 minutes worth it for the impact it has on the day?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. And I cannot start my day without doing those activities. And by the way, I kind of cheat on the way. I do my exercise bikes along the way. So I do 2 in 1.
Perfect. Honestly, that's amazing. And I always say, make use of the dead time that you have. Dead time is basically that time where you're doing something, but you're not actually doing something. So I'm walking to the bus stop or driving somewhere, etc. That's dead time. You're doing something, but you could be doing things at the same time. Your brain
isn't really doing something at the same time.
Exactly. So when I drive, for example, driving here, 1 hour, 45 minutes, however long it took, 2 hours, sometimes I'm driving. For me, I'm in that time, I need to get certain things done. So one of the things that I will get done is if I need to listen to things, audiobook, podcast, something like that, a lecture series, I listen to it in that time. So that way there's some kind of, they call it, passive productivity or something like that, passive. But it's better than nothing. The whole time I could just be sitting there doing nothing.
Absolutely.
Or on a phone call to my friend, just talking nonsense for an hour. No, I'd rather gain something along the way.
100%, because I do that as well in gym.
Yeah.
I either listen to the podcasts, sometimes on Fridays, my podcast, because I need to reevaluate what I've said.
Fair enough.
Other days is listening to an audiobook or maybe another podcast. But it's I'm doing 2 things at the same time. Yeah. Productivity is high, mashallah, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, good stuff.
So you were a poet as well.
Oh yeah, I didn't think you were going to mention that. I've dabbled in some poetry in the past, yes.
What made you go into poetry?
I've always been, I believe anyway, that I've always been someone who's been very creative. Creative meaning creative writing. I've always been someone who likes to perform. And performance obviously doesn't mean that you get a microphone, you start singing. Performance could just be public speaking is a performance, right?
It's an amazing performance, by the way. Public speaking, man. I'm trying to get hang of it. It's hard.
It is. Even hosting, it's a performance, right? So I've always had something there. I've always liked that side of things. I loved reading books growing up. I used to read as many. My family would tell me the kind of books I used to read was, way above the kind of age range that I should have been reading at the time. But alhamdulillah, I was reading, advanced books and things. So I think that's where it came from. It just came from an appreciation for language, a love for reading books, a love for creative arts. And I think that's where it just came from. It just became natural. I'll be honest, growing up as a kid, I did used to listen to rap music, and I was heavily influenced by that. And that's where, honestly, where it came. I'm just being honest here. That's where it came from as well. I had an appreciation for rap. And for those of you who don't know, rap actually stands for rhythm and poetry.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a type of poetry.
By the way, I get so fascinated how rappers do it.
It's crazy.
It's amazing how
crazy.
they do it. It's just fascinating.
Yeah, putting everything else aside, but just the creative part,
Yeah.
the rhythm, the flow, the rhyme, I had an appreciation for that. So I had an ear for those things. I'm, by the way, what you call I think you call it an auditory learner, which means that I listen and I pick up a lot of things. You know, some people are visual learners, they need to see. I'm an auditory learner. So for me, even growing up, I remember Juz 30 of the Quran, Juz 29 of the Quran, Juz Tabarak, I memorized it without ever looking inside. I just used to listen to it every day, and I learnt the whole Juz, memorized it just like that. And I was that kind of kid who used to listen to rap music, and I used to memorize the lyrics. So I just had that rhythm within me. So when I used to write, it was very heavily influenced by rap. So yeah, I'll be honest with you, it was very much influenced by rap.
Did you write any Islamic raps?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and when I was in school, I used to enter competitions where it was like Islamic, poetry competitions.
Do you remember any of them?
I'll be honest with you, probably not. No.
Okay, I was going to say, can you do one for me now?
I still remember, I did one on Ramadan, and yeah, it's funny because it was influenced by the rhyme scheme was influenced by. I'm just going to be honest and say it was influenced by 50 Cent.
Okay,
I did a Islamic rap about Ramadan. I used to enter a lot of competitions and things like that, and this is where eventually I ended up writing my own book.
What is it? Is it a book?
This is a book, and this is actually a gift for you. I was going to give it at the end. This is a book on Surah Yusuf. So it's 40 lessons from Surah Yusuf, and this was my first book that I, alhamdulillah, self-published a couple of years back. And I think it all tied in. It was all of that poetry and creative writing and love for books and things, which then this was the product of it, alhamdulillah, in the end.
Because I just because when I came into the studio and I saw this book on the table, and it was similar color. I went to Blackstone just before the studio to give someone a book, and it was similar color. I was like, huh?
No, my book was in Blackstone.
How did that book come from my office to here? And then I was like, this is nice. It's a very nice book, mashallah. I mean, it looks quality for sure. Let me see. Did I see this in the book? In this? No, mashallah, very nice.
Yeah, so we put a lot of effort into the quality, design, the writing, aesthetics.
See, that's another thing I need to ask you. How do you write a book? Because I think I need to start writing something, but how do you start? Where do you...
Honestly, read a lot of books. That's the starting for me. If the more you read, the more you get an appreciation, an idea of how to actually write a book. If you've never read a book and then you try to write one, you don't have a benchmark, you don't have an example to look back on. So I read a lot of books, and of course then as I was studying the deen and things, obviously you have to now read books, whether it's in English or in Arabic. So I've read a lot of books in my life, and I think I took a lot of inspiration from previous books, and I think that's the starting for me before anything else. So yeah, writing a book, that was an amazing experience for me. I actually finished writing this book in particular during the COVID lockdown. And that kind of, it forced a lot of us to rethink and do things differently. So when the COVID lockdown hit, I just remember I was like, what do I do now? We're at home, we can't go out. So I was like, okay, I'm going to use this time to finish writing this book, this project that I've been working on for a long time.
Love it.
And that's when we finalized and did it.
Feels quality as well.
Alhamdulillah.
It's a gift-worthy book as well. It's something that you can just wrap up and.
I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly what we aimed for. That's what we aim for.
It's ready to go.
Yeah,
it's ready to go. Alhamdulillah. So, but going back to the hafiz stuff.
Yeah.
So, I feel sorry for the huffaz during the Ramadan time, because they don't really enjoy the time that we enjoy as normal fasting people.
Yeah.
And I think half huffaz, they should get breaks. They should get, days off. And there should be shift patterns. I don't know if you lead Taraweeh or something.
I do, yeah.
But that's another thing that scares me off as well for being hafiz.
Oh, you don't have to lead Taraweeh. But having said that, it's almost like an unspoken rule, which is if you want your revision to be top and you want to retain the Quran, then you have to lead Taraweeh. It's one of the best ways of revising. But you're right, by the way. So I think I've been leading for Taraweeh for, I don't know, almost 15 years now. And, you know, it's definitely a struggle in Ramadan. Like you said, my whole day revolves around these 8 or 10 rakat that I need to lead in the night time. And I'm just revising and I can't eat properly and whatever. But recently I have been tweaking it, by the way. So exactly what you said. For example, this Ramadan just gone, I did do a shift thing and I didn't lead every single night. I actually ended up leading 16 nights in total.
That's
so
nice.
I had the other half. So it's like a few days I'd lead, a few days off like that. That was due to my schedule, but also it was intentional. Like I wanted time with family because otherwise you got family now. How are you going to spend time with them in Ramadan?
Yeah,
how are you going to go see my parents and
always
things
kind of like
that?
you know, moving around like a cyclone.
Exactly,
during
yeah.
that time.
Exactly.
SubhanAllah. So, and then you went to, so you became a hafiz. You're a poet, mashallah, very productive Muslim. Are you Bengali or?
Yeah, Bengali.
Mashallah.
Yeah.
Which part of Bangladesh are you from?
Silet.
Silet, which part?
Bartokhola.
Bartokhola. There's a madrasa there, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a
Bartokhola.
masjid and madrasa there.
Yeah.
I haven't been for a long time though. I haven't been back to Bangladesh for a long time.
Wow.
But I made intention to go soon, inshallah.
Okay, look, I want to talk about your business, but before I do, just quickly run me through how Alimiya was, the process, because I know you went to what, Ibrahim College?
Ibrahim College.
Did you study there as well?
Yeah.
And then now
Studied
you're
there,
a
graduated
teacher
there.
now in,
Yeah.
in Ibrahim College. I went to Ibrahim College. I was probably the first batch of students back in Beda State Mosque.
Yeah.
And we went to the Greenfield Road one. What was life like, you know, as a student? Did I see you? When did you join?
No. I was there from around 2012-ish.
Okay.
So we didn't see each other then, but it was amazing. And you know, Alimiya, that was basically my dream after becoming a hafiz. It was always, you know, what have I memorized? What is the meaning of all of this? And you know, I'm parroting it and I'm repeating it every Ramadan in Taraweeh, but I have no idea, no understanding of what any of this means. So for me, it was always a dream to go and study. But like I said, I was back in Exeter. So now I'm like, okay, I've done my hifz and I did that in Leicester. Go back to Exeter, back in Devon again. And where am I going to study? And I just remember one day sitting there and there's this advert that came on Islam channel and I saw Ebrahim College and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. I need to move to London. But obviously you're like, you know, at that time I'm like in my late teens, you know, and it's a big move to make, to move to London and then to finance that. It's not easy, right? If you're already here and you've got family here, alhamdulillah, it's fine. You go and you apply and you go there. But for me, it was very different. And I was the only student who had joined Ibrahim College from complete out of town, like a different city. So what I had to do was I had to finance that move. So I had to have enough money to move from Exeter, get my own place in London, which as you know is not easy, pay rent, pay the fees, travel, you know, all of these costs in my teens. And I made the conscious decision not to go to university, right? I have my own reasons for that. I didn't go to university and do a degree, which initially I wanted to do. So what did I have to do? Before I joined Ibrahim College, a lot of people don't know, I took a gap year and I went to a call center and I worked my socks off in that call center for 1 year straight. I did not spend any money except the money I spent on my driving lessons, right? I literally, because I was at home, I didn't need to pay bills at that age. And I did literally saved. I was the most sensible 18, 19-year-old you would ever have seen.
Wow.
Literally, no money, yeah. And every penny I saved up, I can't remember what it was. It was like more than 10K. And, you know, as an 18-year-old, 10K is like, whoa, that kind of money is like, it's a lot of money, right? I saved that in a year and I took that and then I started studying. I moved to London with that money. I self-financed it. And that was it. And I just started renting somewhere. Started with a relative's place, you know, like that, you know, so you're paying less rent. And then, you know, paying the fees. And that's how I came to London. And that eventually led to my business ventures, because then you start running out of money and you're like, what do I do next? And that kind of motivates you to then start a business. And that's actually the background story.
Why did you not go to university, by the way?
A couple of reasons. Number one, because after going to college, I was like, what is this? I didn't have any interest in it. And I didn't see the value in going and getting a degree. Number two, interest. I knew that I couldn't afford it. Even though, by the way, I was still in the batch of students who were paying 3K, right? I was before the 9K thing. I just said I'd have to take out a loan and things like that. And I didn't want to do any of that. So just to avoid interest, I said no to university. And then, the opportunity came to study at Ebrahim College. So I said, this is better than uni and I'll gain more from this. So that's why I went down that path instead.
Do you think Muslim businessmen and businesses should get together and start financing, students as well, because there are people who who are probably not going down that path,
Yeah.
9K, interest and mashallah, these people are very conscious.
Yeah.
What can Muslim community do to support these people?
I would say yes and no. Yes and no. Why? Because no to the majority of students. I don't think you should be funding majority of students to go to university and putting money and resources towards that when you could be putting it towards better things. Why should you be funding? I mean no offense to anyone who's studying any, but as in like if someone's going to study medicine or something which is really going to put them into a sector which is much needed and they're going to bring they're going to have a lot of value in the community, then yes, help those students. But then the vast majority of degrees today, I don't think they're worth funding. I mean that with the utmost respect. If you're studying it, I don't mean any disrespect towards you. I'm just saying that I don't think we should be funding those degrees. Just gonna be honest with you. I don't think we need to fund certain degrees, which when you come out, you still have no idea what you're gonna do with that degree, what career you're gonna go into. But there's certain careers like medicine or other careers, right, where you can go, get a degree, you're gonna get a job, you're gonna give something back. Yeah, fair enough, help those students. But then you've got the other side. You've got, what about all the students who want to become alims and hufad and they don't have enough? Why don't you put some money towards scholarships there as well? What about, there's loads of imams out there who don't get paid a lot of money because the masjids can't afford. Why don't you help them out? We don't have a good infrastructure, which means that the level of Islamic education, the level of even the level of the imams, the caliber of our imams is hampered because the infrastructure is not there. The masjids can't afford it. The organizations can't afford it. So what do? They get an imam, give a little bit of money. The imam does the best job that he can, but he's not supported enough.
And he has to do everything as
do
well.
Everything,
cleaning,
right?
Sometimes
Everything,
doing azan,
right? Nikah,
caretaking.
Nikah, then mediating between couples, right? Counseling, Jumu'ah, prayers, maktab, teaching kids. And then you and I, we're sat here talking about the future of our kids. Yeah? You're concerned. Why isn't my child going to go do X, Y, Z? And then we look at the standard of the imams, masjids, etc. Okay, if we're not supporting the masjids and the imams and things, those are the same people we're hoping are going to help our children, right? My thing is, there's no infrastructure in the Muslim community. Yes, mashallah, now we're moving slightly. Some masjids are doing better. Imams, there's higher caliber. But we're really behind. And this is actually one of the things, one of my intentions when I was studying, and even with Nikah Co and the businesses that I have, I said to myself, I want to have set almost like a standard for imams, like need to be high caliber and we need to be professional. We need to give back to the community.
Almost like HMC of the imams.
Whatever you want to call it, right? Whatever you want to call it. So I saw that in Ebrahim College, mashallah, there's many graduates from Ebrahim College who are high standard, but they need to be supported. You can't be of high standard and high caliber and then no one's there to give you a job because, if I become an imam, I'm going to get paid peanuts. So you know what? I'm better off just going and becoming a taxi driver or going and becoming an engineer or something like that. Now you've just lost a potential great asset for the community because of money. It does boil down to, I think as Muslims, money becomes a taboo subject. We don't want to talk about money. No, it's dunya. Focus on the akhirah and things like that. Yeah, inshallah, we're going to focus on the akhirah. But listen, man, we need money to live and we need money to survive. And on top of that, we need money. Money speaks loud, right? Ultimately, that's the world we live in. And so now you've just lost out on a high caliber imam and scholar because of money, who now has gone into a different job in a different sector, going work in the city now. Why? Because we were not there to support the infrastructure, right? And I give this example again with utmost respect. I would say that many parents out there, math tutor, science tutor, this sports, recreational activity, paying money, no problem. Then the imam comes along with the madrasa, we have some fees. Oh, that's a bit expensive. Come on, where's your priorities now? If you want your child to be academically successful, fine, mashallah, invest in that. But come on, you've got to invest in the madrasa and the masjid and the imam and things like that. You can't now look at money at every turn now and think, why is this guy charging so much?
Some people go as far as saying, you should be doing it for free.
Free sabilillah.
Yeah, free sabilillah.
As they call it.
This is hurtful. For me, it's hurtful to even hear, because ultimately time is a resource. Everyone is allocated with certain times in their life. Some 60 years, some 80 years, some 100 years, mashallah. But ultimately, it's the time. And
100%.
what these teachers or imams, they're charging for is the time, not the knowledge.
And then look at what they put into it, 10, 15 years of studying and sacrifice, right? And now you think they can't charge, and they're offering a service just like any other service. Yes, it's an Islamic service, it's got religious packaging to it. Yeah, fair enough, that's fine. But then to expect them to not charge and to not charge a good amount, come on. And this is where I feel like, it's a bit taboo to speak about these things. Some people may even listen to this and think, look at this imam, he's so money hungry or whatever, just talking about money. Honestly, I'm way past that now. I am way past it. I don't mind discussing these things openly because most people aren't. And I have no problem with an imam going and starting a business that's successful. MashaAllah, I think we should support them. And imams should be doing well. They should be doing well. I'm not saying that you become money hungry and materialistic and that's the only thing you focus on and you forget about your priorities and your duties. But we need to be supporting imams and scholars because, like I said, when you want to get married, who do you go to? The imam. All right, you got any problems in your marriage? You go. Problems with your kids? You go there. You want to learn Quran? So these are the people you're turning to for all your problems. But then, no, I don't want to support them at the same time. I don't want to give them the money for it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, moving on. Talk about ego, because obviously when there's Islamic people that can have huge egos, like people that have knowledge, the ego of knowledge. There are others who have ego of, the status. How do you navigate through ego? Because I think a little bit of ego is good if you use it properly. Little bit of not arrogance. Arrogance is no good at all, but you have to have some sort of resilience versus ego. But how do you manage keep that all under control? That's my view, by the way. Now you might have a different opinion.
Okay, so I agree. Arrogance, pride. It's as Muslims, that's something that you cannot have. You cannot embody that negative trait, and we believe that it's a disease of the heart. And what does that mean? It means that leads you to look down on people. The Prophet he defined arrogance as batarul haqq wa ghamtun nas, which basically means to reject the truth and to belittle and despise people. That's basically what arrogance is. That, for example, if I said to you, this is the reality, this is the truth, right? And you out of your arrogance, knowing that it's the truth, you argue with me and say, no, it's not, right? So you're arguing. Because you're arrogant, because you're stubborn, you're not accepting what the truth is, the reality is, right? This is kind of like that. And then, of course, belittling people, looking down on people, thinking you're less than me, I'm more worthy than you, I'm better than you. This is what ultimately arrogance is. So we would say that no, you should not have any arrogance in your heart whatsoever. Even ego, I think nowadays, ego is a term which is kind of used, I would say negatively, but people are trying to put positive spin on it. So like in the mainstream, you'll hear people talking about you need to have a bit of an ego, especially when it comes to business, corporate world, I think you hear people talking about it. I think for us, we have to balance because we know that there's a nafs, right?
Yeah.
And Allah even tells us in the Quran that have you seen a person who takes their nafs as their own deity, meaning they worship their nafs. And I feel like that's what's being pumped out today, which is, self-love, self-care, self-this. It's all about you. As long as you're happy. Individualism, right? As long as you're happy, it's like, I have a problem with that kind of mindset.
Me too.
Even the whole, look at, for example, something like, people have morning routines, right? And you have affirmations. Look at what the affirmations made of. I don't know if the viewers are familiar with what affirmations are, but it's become a big thing, like affirmations and manifestation and all of these wishy-washy terms that people like Oprah Winfrey and these ultra successful people are starting to use nowadays, right? These are the kind of things they do. Affirmation is like, you look in the mirror and you say, I am great, I'm going to be successful, I am this, I am that, right? Again, it's like, as a Muslim, if you want to be successful, that's one thing, no problem. But we don't believe in this kind of stuff where you need to pump your ego and pump yourself. I am great, I am successful. Actually, we don't believe we're great. We need to humble ourselves and say, okay, I can do something, inshallah, with what Allah has given me. But there's always an attribution we need to make back to Allah, isn't it? We always have to say, but if Allah wills, insha'Allah, masha'Allah, it depends. If Allah wills for it to happen, then. So I think the term we need to look at is what some of the scholars actually discuss, which is ulu al-himma, which means high aspiration. So I think aspiration is one thing, right? And I'll share with you an amazing quote. It's actually in the book, I think, which is one of my most favorite quotes. I can't remember who said it, but it's one of the early scholars who said that live your life and plan your life and execute as if you're going to live forever. But prepare for the akhirah as if you're going to die tomorrow. That for me is an amazing quote, because look what he's saying. He's saying live and plan and execute your life as if you're going to live forever. So like, you know, I've got a job to do. I've got work to do here. I'm going to plan next 10, 15, 20 years. I want to create an empire. I want to do this. I want to like, you know, do all of these things and achieve these things. But don't forget, plan for your akhirah as if you're going to die tomorrow. So don't forget the reality. The reality is that I can go anytime, and that's what humbles me. And that's what actually adds a bit of motivating factor, which is that I haven't done enough. Before I go, have I left behind enough? So for me, I think aspiration, high aspiration, a Muslim should definitely have. Plan and execute and do as much as you can. But the ego and the self and things like that, we need to lower it. Because ultimately, when your ego is out of control, when you're no longer in control of yourself and of your ego and of your nafs, then this leads to, you know, problems, huge problems.
Huge problems.
Arrogance, it leads to looking down on people. It leads to even, you know, not attributing success to Allah, letting materialism take over your heart. It leads to a lot of problems. So that's the balance for me, the aspiration side.
Yeah, and I think people slowly, I think with the increase of ego over time and pride over time and arrogance, they start questioning the very, you know, things that Allah has created and things that are very obvious that is a creation of Allah, but they start, because their ego has become so big now, they want to try and unlock and, you know, explain everything. They want to have an explanation to everything.
You know, it's something I can't get out of my head. I was randomly one day watching this documentary on Tony Robbins. Everyone knows who Tony Robbins is. And obviously we know that when he goes on stage, he has this presence on stage, right? And he has not like 10, 15 or a few hundred people. He has like tens of thousands of people, right? I still remember in the documentary where the producer asked him, so are you feeling nervous? Like before the event, the main event is like there's like thousands of people waiting on stage, and he's backstage at this moment. There's like thousands of people watching. And he's like, do you feel nervous? And he's like, and he laughed. And he's like, no. Like, he's like, basically he's trying to say, someone like me, I never feel nervous, right? Which I get to some degree, because there are people, if you've trained yourself and you're so like, you know, confident, then yeah. But at the same time, I feel like that could be a person's downfall as well. You know, when you feel like I am,
invincible.
Invincible. Yeah. Man, Allah can humble you. You know, like you can be on that stage and your voice goes. Allah can take your voice away, yeah? Like, and it's happened to me before. You're reciting Quran and you're in a flow in Taraweeh, and next thing you know, your voice just goes. Allah can just take it away from you like that, the smallest thing, yeah? And your whole event's ruined because they came to hear you, yeah? It's your voice. You're not really in full control of that. Prepare for it and no problem. I'm not saying don't have self-confidence, but you know when you, like you said, invincibility, right? Yeah. And feeling like, I never get nervous. I think nerves is a good thing, by the way. I think having a little bit of nerves, till this day, 15 years on, I still have nerves before I lead Taraweeh. I've done it year in, year out. I still have some nerves before I do a Nikah ceremony, even though I've done hundreds now. Before you do a podcast, you have a little bit of nerves. I think it's a good thing because it keeps you in check. Yeah. It makes you think, okay, is this right? But when you're so overly confident, man, anything can happen. By the end of this podcast, we could find out we didn't even hit the record button. There's no audio. You could just be humble thinking that, I'm in control. But subhanAllah, you just never know.
Subhanallah. So what you're saying is we should be aspirational, we should aspire, but at the same time, you know, keep our ego, keep reducing our ego, not increasing it.
Yeah, keep it in check is what I'm trying to say. Check. Yeah, we don't need to kill our confidence and, you know, not have any self-belief on if these things, have lower self-esteem. No, you have these things, and this is prophetic to actually have these things. So we're not saying kill all of it off. We're just saying keep it in check. Don't let it overtake you. Don't let it overpower you.
Don't belittle other people because you haven't kept it in check.
Exactly.
Right. Amazing. Now, talk to me about business, because the business that you have is not a very obvious business, because one would think, you know, that's a job of an imam. You know, you can't, you know, it's not a viable commercial, you know, venture. But alhamdulillah, you've made a business, you turned it into a business, which is what I'm referring to is the Nikah Co.
Yeah.
Talk to me about a name. How did the Nikah Co come about? And why did you think that it needs to be turned into a business? Why couldn't you just be a freelancer or something?
Yeah. I mean, it's a good question. So I think for me, every business has a story. For me, it was very simple. I think Nikah Co is a service-based business, as you know. We're providing a service. Every service-based business, I think, in summary, there's a problem and you find a problem and you try and solve that problem. That's ultimately what it is. So what was the problem that we found? Not that there's no imams to do the nikah, because like you said, you could argue, go to the masjid, find an imam, get the nikah done. But it was twofold, and it's the evolution of the world that we're living in, which is we've outgrown the communities. So that once upon a time, me and you growing up, we remember our local masjid, our local imam. The number of Muslims now has grown so much that there's so many different masjids, so many different communities. You don't have that sense of community anymore. So having a local imam, that's it. I think that has kind of gone for a lot of people, right? And then there's so many other things. For example, the second part would be the imams that we do have. I could come back to it. Sometimes not of the highest caliber, sometimes not English speaking. There's so many different factors. No disrespect to imams, by the way. By the way, just as a disclaimer, the highest respect that I have is for the masjid imams because of what we discussed.
Exactly.
The stuff that they do, I will never come close to ever doing. The khidmah that they do, the way that they serve the community. And then for most of them, you look at how much they get paid, you just think, wow, I respect it.
How can you even live on that money?
Exactly. So you know what? I'm not even slating anyone here. I humble myself in front of you. I think you're just, mashallah, something special, right? But you do need imams who are entrepreneurial as well. You need imams to do different things, right? So for me, it was the service that people are looking for. They're looking now at their weddings and, they've got guests coming and things like that. They want an imam who's presenting themselves in the right manner, English, eloquence, something of a high standard. Yeah. And I was like, basically, the Nikah Co is nothing new in the sense that it's not like we're the first people who ever started doing nikahs. No, we just packaged it in a certain way, in a different way. And that's where the Nikah Co came about. So there was that element, which was, that was a problem that we found that we wanted to solve. And then the second part was the reality of my situation at the time, which is I was coming towards the end of my studies. Like I said, I had moved away from home. I was I self-funded initially, and then I was juggling so many things. Like, how it is as a student. You're studying full-time. In the evenings, you're doing some private tuition here and there, teaching in a madrasa, doing some part-time imam on the weekends. I'm literally juggling all of these things just to make some money to pay what I can, right? I said to myself one day, look, man, this is not feasible. Am I going to graduate in life later on, a few years down the line, have my own family and just be juggling 4, 5, 6 different things? It's just not feasible, right? So I said, I think the only solution is starting a business. If I have a business, I don't need to rely on this masjid, this organization to pay me. I'm in control. So that's where Nikah Co came about. I just went home that summer. So we had a summer holiday in 2016. So it's coming up to 8 years now since we started Nikah Co. It was just me, went home, went on, Wix, the website, built a website, made my own designs, everything, came up with the packages, consulted with some of my teachers. That's how it started. It literally started with just me, one nikah booking here and there. Went to the nikah, did the nikah, charged a bit of money, got paid in cash. And for me, that was like, whoa, this extra cash is like life-changing, man. Yeah. I'm getting to pay extra things. And I was like, this could really become a thing. And the next thing you know, I'm now thinking of, what, this model can become, I think at the time we called it the Uber of nikah. So Uber, you can pick it up and any location you can order an Uber. So I was like, we should get to a stage where in any city, you can have an imam who is of Nikah Co standard, who can do your nikah for you. Alhamdulillah, now the team has grown. We've got multiple imams. Obviously, one of them, Imam Sultan, who's actually one of the directors as well. So I brought him on board quite early on, and we've been working very closely together. So now, alhamdulillah, we've as a collective, me individually, I'm coming up to about around 500 nikah ceremonies that I've personally officiated, and as a team, we're almost on about 1,000 over the years. So we've got a lot, got a lot of it.
So what can one couple expect from calling you guys out to
do the nikah,
to do the nikah?
So look, I think what I would say to the couple first and foremost is your nikah is very important. You're getting married, and I know for the wedding people want, mashallah, nice venue, nice stage, nice decor, nice car, nice dress. People think about these things, right? But very rarely do they think about the nikah. I want you to think about this. The nikah, firstly, from a religious point of view, if you're a Muslim, then it's a sacred thing, right? It's very
This
sacred
is the exact thing that you're trying to ceremonize.
Right, exactly, yeah. Without this, you're not married.
Exactly.
Okay. And then secondly, think about how the nikah can play a role in the day. Like your event, think about if you have a good recitation, a good speech, think about how the impact it can have on the people. If you've got a few hundred guests, look at, it could become the centerpiece of your day. That's basically what we say to couples. And alhamdulillah, over the years, we're starting to see more and more couples thinking the nikah. Yeah, one of the first things. Back in the day, I remember when we first started, it used to be last minute things.
Yeah,
our nikah's next week, we need an imam. Right? Couples not even thinking of that. Now, mashallah, we're getting bookings a year in advance. Couples are like, no, nikah, we need a good imam.
Yeah.
Right? Alhamdulillah, I feel like it's from Allah, but honestly, I feel like Nikah Co has changed the standard of nikahs and the way couples think over the years. I feel like we've had an impact in that sector for sure. I would just say, look, what you're going to expect is you're going to, with the local masjid, a lot of times, you will meet the imam on the day. I'm going to be honest with you. You're probably speaking to some admin from the masjid. With Nikah Co, you have a consultation with the imam, you get to ask questions, and then, like I said, presentability on the day, speech, you have input as well, marriage contract, all of that. So it's a whole package. And yeah, it really makes the nikah the most special part of the day. So yeah,
so
I know I'm making you feel like
how much does it cost? How much does it cost?
How much does it cost? It varies. Yeah, if I'm honest with you, the starting is about £350.
Oh, that's not too bad.
It's not bad at all.
Yeah.
I was speaking with, so you know, brother Ibrahim from IFG. Yeah, you've had him on the podcast before. Yeah. So I remember before COVID, I was speaking to him, and he was telling me how, based on his research or IFG's research, Islamic Finance Guru, they found that the average Muslim couple was spending £50,000 on the wedding, right? In a year, his valuation was about more than £1 billion the Muslims spend on weddings a year, right? £300, £350 on a nikah. That's what I'm saying. If you're, and we know the cost,
and you're giving the recitation, and you're giving
venues,
speech,
catering, decor, car, dress, jewelry, ring. I get all of that. It costs money. I know, especially in London, I know it costs a lot of money, tens of thousands of pounds. Yeah, and then nikah. It's honestly,
come on, you need the blessing. I mean, you have to do that part properly because
you have to.
There's no point doing everything else without the fundamental.
And this is a struggle I had. Honestly, in the early years, I used to have a struggle of like, again, money is taboo. I used to feel like, should I be charging this much? I remember just, not charging. Some couples would, ask questions. Can you get a discount and things like that? Now we don't. Now we've changed that.
Do you just say no?
Discounts.
Sorry, no
we can't now. We just, because it's time, man. It's traveling.
Does it include
out
travel
there.
as well, or
if it is more travel costs involved, if obviously it's outside of London and things like that. But it's a lot of time to go there, the travel cost, the service that you provide, and then think about the wedding. Come on. You tell me, I know the answer, but you tell me, how many weddings do you think out of 10, how many do you think are on time? If we're told 1:30 p.m. nikah, and we're there and we will arrive on time, you tell me if it's going to start on time. 9 times out of 10, no way. There's at least a half an hour delay, 45-minute delay. So we don't charge extra for that. We're there and we're giving hours and hours of our time and service and things like that. Anyway, I don't want to go into it and make it out as if, no, people, you need to give us your money.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that every service is valuable. I'm not putting down the catering service. The catering is a good service. All of these people have a service. I'm just saying that we also have a service.
Yeah.
And we need to charge for the service.
Yeah.
And, that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Now, how do you keep your weight under control with all the weddings that you go to? I mean,
I was not expecting that question.
If I'm doing the ceremony in May, I'll be munching away.
So, consciously, I do not eat at 99% of weddings.
Okay.
There's a couple of reasons for this. One reason is because it comes back down to my ethos of imams and professionalism.
Yeah.
If you've paid for a service, you will get that service, and inshallah we will go above and beyond for that service. And I get people want the imam to stay, and that's nice of them. But for me, my thing is, and I even advise my colleagues, I say try not to. If you can, try not to. Why? I know it sounds a bit funny. People are going to laugh at this, right? Yeah. But my ethos is, you're there for a service, deliver the service, go above and beyond. But in food and things like that, it kind of takes away from it, because now they're gonna, you're there, and it's a bit awkward as well because you're sat on a random table of people, and I said, go and deliver the service and come. That's it. You don't need to be there for food and all the other parts of the day. So it was a personal thing, and also it's just other things like the awkwardness and things like that. So I don't eat at most weddings, and that's why Because I do agree. If you're eating at most of these weddings, the food is. But
it
looks good, man.
At least us Bengalis, they wouldn't let you leave, right?
No, they don't. And sometimes I have to be very, very adamant. Like I have to sometimes even argue. No, I'm gonna go. I really appreciate it. I'm not rude. I just say I'm really appreciate it. Jazakallah khair. Because we've got especially I don't live in London anymore, so I've got a lot of traveling to do. So for me to stay an extra hour for food, and like you said, there's delays. It's not on time. It's not like okay, I do the nikah, food's ready. So it's many reasons. But
so how many bookings did you do in year 1, 2016?
I don't.
Or within the first 12 months?
It'll be very difficult to tell you that. I need to look back at it. But because it was just me, barely any, is a handful. I would say maybe a couple each month, which wouldn't even amount to 15,
What year
20
was the tipping point where you felt, what, it is going somewhere?
I would say about 2 years in. Yeah, 2.5 years in. That's when we were like, okay, because the word spreads very quickly. You have to understand with weddings, the thing is, you've got social media on one side, but weddings, how many people are at weddings, right? So what started happening was the more weddings we're going to, naturally, some weddings, mashallah, us Asians, we have 200, 300, 400 people at the weddings. Naturally, what's going to happen? Someone's there, they're getting married soon. Oh, I like that. Come and speak to you afterwards. I'm getting married, or my daughter's getting married soon. I want you as my imam. So what started happening is that word of mouth actually was more powerful than social media for us.
Did you think that was going to happen?
No, because I didn't have experience with weddings. I just thought, I'm going to go, so I didn't expect that. I thought social media, I was focusing on that, but then word of mouth completely overtook it. So we would do 10 weddings, and from those 10 weddings, we'd get another 10, 15 bookings. And that's how we realized, okay, we need more imams, and we need to really up our game from this sense. So now, basically, we're averaging, in the most recent years, up to about 200 bookings in a year. Before that, it was around 120, so it jumped. And my target is, inshallah, to go up to at least 300 bookings in a year, minimum. Inshallah, over the next few years, is at least hit the 300 per year. So amazing. That's a good amount to have.
3 is always a nice number. Right?
Yeah. It's just up the target a little bit and increase. And the only way you can do that is, of course, keep spreading the word. Keep building the model that you have, and of course, getting more imams on board. That's the only way that we can do it.
Do you guys get any problems? Where you done one nikah maybe and they had to call you back saying, we're facing this issue or that issue. I mean, how? Because I know there's a lot of
problems within the marriage.
Yes, within the marriage. Not within your service, of course.
Yeah. We get that a lot.
What is the common cause? What is one common cause, or what is one common problem that you guys keep hearing again and again?
Yeah, so I think what's interesting is, like you said, because of the volume of nikahs that we're doing now, because I get asked this quite a lot, like, is there like how many couples end up in divorce or something like that from the nikahs that you do? Alhamdulillah, it's still at a very, minimal amount, which is positive. But of course, the more you do, the more you're going to hear of problems. It's natural, right? It just makes sense. So the problems that we get is, you're gonna always get calls later on down the line, a couple of years down the line with certain issues. I've had, the worst one was probably when one bride called me and said, my husband beat me. Basically, and I said, this is not now you need to get other people involved. This is not for me to deal with. And this is a serious issue. You need to get even authorities involved if necessary. But the general ones, obviously, it's not as extreme as that, alhamdulillah, most of the time. A lot of the times, it's just natural. Look, I think this is what it boils down to. I always say this. We do a lot of marriage seminars as well. It boils down to expectation. Before you go into anything, right, what is your expectation? Before you booked a restaurant, you looked on social media and that restaurant is a very bougie restaurant and you're expecting a fine dining experience. You're going to go in there, the food's going to be amazing, everything. You go there, and because your expectation was up here, you have the food, it was okay. Yeah. I saw all of these social media posts, it looked amazing. Okay, marriage, honestly, is the same thing, because nowadays people, they see marriages on social media. They see other people's marriages. Wow, that looks amazing. Look at this guy, look at this person. They're going on holidays, they're doing this, it's so happy. Marriage is easy. And then they go into it with this expectation, and then they very quickly realize
there's work to be done.
There's a lot of work to. Marriage is not just easy as, I'm in love with you. Let's go on a holiday. No, mate, you've got a lot of work. That's not love at all. Day to day, every day of dealing with each other. You're two different people, two different personalities, keeping each other happy. This is where most people, they have no clue. So all my thing is, and this is why we're trying to do more educational stuff, like seminars, is we're trying to equip couples, Muslim couples, with the tools to go into marriage with, and expectations and what to do and what to think of, right? I still remember one guy, you're going to laugh at this example. One guy said to me, right, I'm having issues with my wife, etc. Do you know how quickly I managed to diagnose and identify what the problem was? Yeah, I said, go on, give me an example of an issue that you're facing. He said, yeah, you know, like when we have a bit of an argument, she says to me, "Oh, go away! Like, give me some space, go away." So what do? I just go out of the house. I go and chill with my boys. I was like, bro, are you crazy? I said, when a woman says to you, go from here, that doesn't mean she wants you to physically go. That actually means she wants more attention from you. She wants you to like give her some attention and love and care. That's the nature of a woman. And there's nothing wrong with that, yeah? Yeah, when a guy says go, we want
that
space.
Means go.
That means give me my own time, right? So I was like, this guy got married and he has no clue of even basics of a gender, like a basic gender difference, which is what a woman is like and what a man is like. We have our differences. We have a different fitrah and things like that, right? It's fine. So you don't even know that. So how are you going to deal with the bigger things? Now, this is a minor thing. How will you deal with the major things? So sometimes as Muslims, we think, okay, because I studied fiqh of marriage, or I studied the Islamic side, I know everything. No. You still need to study a lot more. There's a lot more to marriage, like personalities, even psychology and things like that. So I think it's expectation and just lack of knowledge before going into it. People just think they're going to go into it and it's just going to work. That may happen, autopilot for a few months because everything's, happy
everyone's
and rosy.
vibing, going to this person's house, all these functions,
busy
ceremonies.
And holiday, honeymoon. And when it wears off and the reality kicks in, this is why I say marriage is about celebrating the mundane. The mundane. What is love? What is romance in marriage? It could just be as simple as, you're really tired, you come home from work and, you're really tired. So you just say to your spouse, can you just get me a cup of tea, please, or a glass of water or something? They might be really tired as well. But they might get up and just do that one thing for you. That changes your whole day. You're like, you appreciate that small thing so much. It's not about buying you roses and chocolates and taking you on a holiday. Sometimes it's the small compliment or something like that. Or you had a problem, you vent to your spouse and they listen to you. They're like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and they're on your side. That's it. You're like, wow, there's someone on my side. They listen to me. Yeah. That could just be it. But couples don't understand that. That's what it comes down to.
Do you ever tell your couples that you I guess ceremonize? Do you tell them to understand each other's love language? Because
it's one of the things that we cover in our marriage seminars is love language. Absolutely. That's one of the sections. Literally, is on love language.
So, like for me, I'm act of service. My wife is gifting. I didn't get that until like maybe 10 years into the marriage. I'm like, wow, you're so materialistic. You're like, oh, what?
Nah, it's better late than never. Trust me.
And then when I'm angry, she's giving me gifts. Like, what are you giving me this gift for?
Alhamdulillah, now you know each other's love language. And people have never heard of these terms before. Love language, what is that? What is your apologizing, conflict resolution? They don't want to hear any of these things. Trust me, it's very important to
and people somehow combined all of this into Islamic problems as opposed to human problems.
It's just a human difference that you have. There's no problem with that. So basic things like that, honestly, like conflict resolution, apologizing, putting your ego to one side, like we spoke about. Sometimes it is about ego. It's like, you're wrong, but you don't want to apologize. Just put it to one side for the sake of the relationship. Things like that, Of course, Islam gives us solutions. Yeah, there's plenty of that. But that doesn't mean that you just focus on what we have there. There's plenty of resources and take the good from it. Lots of research that's been done nowadays.
Well, now, how people are finding spouses, obviously, it's become quite a normal now where parents, I guess, without, facing any embarrassment, they ask their children, do you have anyone? Mm-hmm. If you do, then obviously it makes their life slightly easier because nowadays finding a spouse, I guess, wife or a husband is the conventional way is very long and very tedious, whereas it's easier when the children decide who they're going to get married to.
Okay.
What are your views on marriage apps and the conventional way? Because I think the conventional way is definitely way better. Okay. Because of the due diligence involved, purely because of the due diligence aspect. Yeah. Because your parents or the elders, with the level head, they're doing the research and analysis and they're giving you a proper feedback.
Yeah. I agree not even to some extent. I think I agree mostly with what you're saying. Obviously, we know that there's lots of different options these days, and many, whether it's apps or otherwise. My thing is, and I still say this from my observation of a lot of these marriages, because I hear the story of the couples. If we've done hundreds of nikahs, I do sometimes hear about how they got married. So my observation is still, as you said, a lot of these marriages are still the conventional way. It's, recommendations or family and, CVs or whatever you want to call it, right? So that's, for people out there who are listening and think, oh, that's outdated, I promise you it's not, because it's still the most common way for people to get married these days. And like you said, there's a lot of benefits and there's a lot of pros to it. But also, the second way that I'm seeing is the most common, before even the apps, is the organic way. What's the organic way? It's now you go to work, you go to university, you go outside, and you come across someone that you like, okay? Again, as Muslims, sometimes we don't discuss these things because
before it was frowned upon. Oh, you met someone at uni? Astaghfirullah, brother.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It was very much like, the assumption was you've already done something haram.
Yeah.
Okay. No. What if someone organically, naturally comes across someone and it's fine? They liked that person. There was an attraction there, and then they took that to their family. I don't see, that's not the end of the world. Now, initially, like you said, at one point, that was like, oh my God, you have found someone, and not me. But now it's become a lot more acceptable. This is the second most common way people are getting married. They've work colleague, university, they like someone, they found. That's how people are getting married now. They just, as long as you're doing the right way, I'm not saying you go out and date that person and do this and do that. Take it to your family, see what they say, give them the reasons why, be an adult, be a man, be a woman, and speak to them. Don't have this childish behavior and this boyfriend-girlfriend thing. Oh, let us do. No, just be a man, be a woman, go to your parents and say, this is the person I like. What do you think? And if they're open and accepting, and I think most parents now are starting to see the reality, they know that, okay, we can't just function in one way now. And honestly, I'm seeing most parents are accepting it. Even our, you would say traditional Bengali parents, they're becoming more accepting. I see these marriages. I'm officiating them. I know how it came about. And I know the parents know that as well. And they're okay with it. Why? Because my son, my daughter, they haven't done anything haram. They've come to me. We've approved. We've met the family. It's the same due diligence and process involved with the other one. It was just the beginning part was slightly different. They found it instead of them. So that's the second most common way. And then the third is, like you said, apps and things like that. I get asked about apps a lot. And all I would say is the following. I would say, look, yes, I hear a lot of horror stories, is bad stories. I hear a lot of things about apps and things. I personally wouldn't go into an app myself. I wouldn't recommend my own family to go and do it. But having said that, I do know friends of mine who got married through these apps. They went about it the right way. It's all about your intention.
Yeah.
If you go into it and you're planning on messing about with someone, and the example I always give is you can do that on Instagram. You can do that on Facebook. If you wanted to, on Instagram, you can go on different profiles. You can see their pictures. You can like them. You can DM them. You can do something unnecessary, inappropriate on Instagram. My thing is, marriage app is a tool. If your intention is correct, you do it the right way, you can find someone and get married. And alhamdulillah, you can get families involved, chaperone involved. You can do it. So I don't rule it out, because I think that's a bit foolish to, some people, they get defensive and they're like, because they don't like the new modern technology. No, trust me. I know people who are doing it, and there is a way of doing it correctly. But I do acknowledge that people are doing inappropriate things on there as well. It's all about you, ultimately. That's what it comes down to. The way you carry yourself, the decorum that you carry, the intention that you have. If you see someone that you like in university or something, you could go about it the wrong way, or you can go about it the right way. It's up to you. That's the way I see it personally.
Wow. So that's very interesting. The perspective, your views on the apps, because it seems like it's a taboo. Like, oh my God, you found someone in the app.
Yeah.
And,
Initially, by the way, I used to be very hesitant talking about or answering this question. And I think now it's just like, you just have to answer it, because the reality is, a few months ago, I did a tour. I did about 10 events in Scotland and England, different universities. And I just saw the amount of young people who are really struggling. They asking these questions and they're not getting a correct answer. They're not getting a proper answer on apps, on dating, on finding someone, or the Islamic etiquettes and things like that. So I did a whole event just about love, marriage, in Islam, relationships and stuff like that, right? And the questions and the interest that we got from it was just like, wow. You just think, these guys need help. And if we're just shying away from it, how are you going to help these guys, honestly?
So do you think more and more people are wanting to know more about marital advice as opposed to marriage, like how to get married and how to sustain a marriage. So, or to reframe it, relationship advice, or how to behave with your opposite gender. To understand, are they trying to understand this as opposed to actual marriage advice?
It depends on the stage they're at. So university students, they're the ones who are seeking, opposite gender interaction. How do you go about if you did like someone? That's the most common stuff from them. And then the young married couples, now they're at the next stage, which is now they want to know, now that I'm married, what do I do? What don't I do? And things like that. So it depends on the stage. Each stage has, and then you enter early parenthood, for example. Now you've got questions about children and this, that. It depends on the stage. But yeah, university students, their main concern is gender interaction. How do I go about it? What if I like this person? What do I do? Is it haram? It's all of these questions. It's actually quite funny because I'm not that much older than them. I'm in my 30s now. Yeah, I just turned 30 not long ago. Even though they're only like 10 years younger, it's not a huge gap here. But it's quite funny to look back and think, man, that's like, the questions that they have, and some of them are mature, some of them are immature. You just think, some of them you look at and you're like, don't get married now, please. Don't get married. You're not ready for it.
You're not ready.
Honestly, please don't get married, because the questions they're asking, the way they come across is like, no, please. And others, you're like, okay, this person's level head, this person knows their stuff. It really depends.
And I think with some people it comes naturally, like, their behavior towards the opposite gender, and what
you can see.
Others they can learn. Like, for example, me, I was bad. Like, I did not know how that stuff work. And then I read a book, small book, ebook back in the days, like how this stuff works. And I realized, okay. And then, it's good. Alhamdulillah, happily married, 12 years.
Alhamdulillah.
So, no, it's amazing. And I think, look, the services that you're offering, and I'm sure it should become an international thing, not just national thing, because people, with the rise of social media, people are becoming also very less confident. They're not confident. They don't know. They don't interact with people anymore. Yeah. It's just online. You don't see people face to face much these days. It's all becoming online. And I think that essence of human interaction is also slowly disappearing.
Yeah, it is.
And I think the services like yours will be very beneficial for people.
Alhamdulillah. We've started doing some international nikahs now, because people are doing what we call destination weddings, right? So they're going out and they're going to places like Morocco and Turkey and things like that, and they're getting married out there. So alhamdulillah, recently we've started doing that, which, if you asked me at the beginning if I would ever do an international one, I would say to you, nah, that's come on, man. That's too much. But now I'm like, there's a market for this, man. Because they need someone English speaking to go out there. They can't get someone locally because they don't speak English.
Exactly.
So that was really interesting.
And by the way, those who are thinking, these imams are going to go and chill, they're going to have a great time. No, actually they don't, because they're under pressure. They've got so much to do. They need to make sure that ceremony goes, as planned. So
exactly.
Yeah, people think, those videographers who go to another country, they're killing it, they're chilling, but actually, like,
the hard work they put in, honestly,
man,
the hours
hard.
And hours of carrying the equipment and getting the shots in, and patience that you need for it. It's not easy. So yeah, it's nice. Don't get me wrong. It's nice to go out there, but it comes with work. Like everything, nothing comes easy. Nothing comes easy in life. You always look at the glamorous side, but no one ever shows you that side of, the difficulties and the struggles that come with it.
Have you always been confident, or I mean, you said like you were good with your words?
Yeah. I think I've just been exposed to the limelight from a young age, so I always had that practice. You know what I mean? From poetry to just public speaking, to even in my very early days of studying, because in Exeter, they used to bring me to do khutbah. So as a young 18, 19-year-old, I had to do khutbah. So I was just trained for it. Then I remember TV1, TV1, Brother Rizwan and these guys, they got me in as one of the first ever presenters on TV1. So that was something I never did, TV presenting. I still remember the first day I was presenting a show. Actually, it wasn't far from here, I think, when they were. So when they were, one of the first shows I did, I was with Sheikh Shams al-Duha. I was the main presenter. And I was expecting Brother Rizwan, was one of these guys, to brief me and tell me what to do. Literally just came in, he was like, right, Shabbir, you okay? You're going live in 60 seconds. Then the earpiece, 10.
My God.
What? No one's mate, I'm like a kid, man. I don't know what I'm doing. And literally, okay, you're live. At that point, I could have froze, but I just had to improvise. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And obviously, I was rubbish to begin with. And then you just learn. And then that's what led to podcasting with IlmFeed and stuff like that, because I got that confidence from there, public speaking. it's just, and this is why I always tell young people, when I say young people, I mean, the bracket of late teens, early 20s. Yeah, I say those are your golden years. Those are the years you should experiment. Like make mistakes, experiment, try different things, because you never know which thing you might take an interest in and might even become something that pays you, somewhere down the line. But like I said, young people, they want to no, I want to stay in this box. I don't want to try new things. I want to go down the safe route. Trust me, experiment as much as you can, because podcasting or any of these things wouldn't have come if it wasn't for TV presenting. That wouldn't have come if it wasn't for this. There's always there's always a segue.
It's amazing how similar your journey is to mine, because obviously, mashallah, you're much more creative, much more eloquent, much more well-spoken than me. But I remember, so when I say viewers and listeners, welcome back to another episode.
Yeah.
This viewers and listeners, I learned it from my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law, his name is Mufti Abdul Muntakim, and he's been a regular presenter or a guest.
Yes.
Since
OG,
old days, like Iqra TV and all of that. And then, so he needed a host. So someone to drive him from home to the studio and also host the show and then bring him back. So he said, "Oh, why don't you come and do it?" I was like, "Are you for real? I am the shyest guy that you can ever find. And okay, I could do the lift, I can take you there, but I am not presenting." And I remember the first show, man. He had to present me.
Serious?
He had to present the presenter.
You had to step in, yeah?
Wow. Oh, I froze. I froze in front of TV. I don't know if that episode is not there because it wasn't on YouTube.
I was going to say to get the producers of the show to find that clip, yeah?
And then that sound, 10, 9, and you're live. I'm like, what am I meant to say? Well, alhamdulillah.
It's a learning curve, isn't it?
It's crazy. I touched on it a while ago, and then, almost my job was only like a repeat framework, introduction, because it's the same guest every time, same topic, quick Q&A, and at the end I think I became slightly better, and then I stopped because I was doing other things.
Yeah.
But it's so similar what you're saying.
It is.
But alhamdulillah, I enjoy IlmFeed, your podcast. I mean, who founded IlmFeed Podcast? Was it yourself or was it the other brother?
IlmFeed itself was one of the brothers. I don't know if you've met him. He's very Rafiq. Yeah, he's very low key. No one sees his face and things like that. MashaAllah. And you need people like that, by the way. You need people in the background doing.
Is he an aviation enthusiast as well?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's not him.
Okay.
Yeah, he's always been into graphic design and things like that. But IlmFeed, I became the face of IlmFeed because I was the first presenter. He got me to do the content, and then we discussed the podcast. We started the podcast, which alhamdulillah was one of the first podcasts because it's been a while. In fact, just before I came, I was checking our episode. I was like, how long ago was this?
That was episode what? Like one of the early episodes.
It was in like 20 something. Yeah, I checked it. And June 2020. That's coming up to 5 years.
I was so fat then as well. I checked that one out as well before.
I was like 5 years, subhanAllah ago. Time's flying. Time flies. Alhamdulillah. Yeah.
How was it? I mean, were you quite experienced by then?
I had done like TV presenting and stuff. Never podcasting. So I'd done like TV presenting. Podcast was like the new thing. Obviously 6-7 years ago, it was picking up. So we jumped on it quite early. And I loved it. Because TV presenting is still quite formal and robotic, But podcast is like it's a conversation, and for me, even though I'm also quite like a shy person, but when you're learning from someone, and the guests that we've had, mashallah, you've got scholars, you've got business, personalities, you've got all of these great people, I'm just there just learning from them.
Absolutely.
Literally. And I would not have met a lot of these people had it not been for the podcast.
100%. And so many people and I read the comments and they say, oh, there should be a mic tax and there should be, this mic should be taken off certain people, including me. So I say, look, with the rise of content, because now it's all about reels, it's all about TikToks, it's all about moving images. It's not still anymore. Back in the days, it was like Instagram, still photos. We've moved a long way, and that's the normal thing. And podcast is imagine like a magazine. Back in the days, if you wanted to do some publication, you would go and open up a magazine or a newspaper. So podcast it's like a digital version of a magazine. You're interviewing someone that you probably don't know. generally it's someone who you've never ever met, and you
Yeah.
probably won't meet them, God knows until how long. But I just find it very interesting.
It's funny, but it has become dilute. I mean, obviously everyone's doing it.
It's saturated. It's saturated
It's
for sure.
so much, right? And it's true. I get what some people are saying. Some people just jump on just for like. There has to be some value. I think as Muslims we understand that.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to get that, but we know that there has to be some value that you add. It can't just be like we're just going to come on, and
just chit chat. Talking
gossip,
of chit chat, bro, I have a problem with this thing. Now with this rise of TikTok and how it does things and how it manipulates people into doing stuff that they probably would never ever in a million years do, which is just chatting crap during the night. Men, women, brothers, sisters, whatever, just talking nonsense, swearing at each other, cussing each other. Like, what is all of this madness happening? Because of my FYP, sometimes, I'm scrolling just to get ideas because we're posting contents to review our contents. And you get all these lives coming up and, people are just like wasting time. Like, what's going on, man? Give me some perspectives. Like, how are we going to like just waste our time? Is that the fate of the Muslim Ummah or how are we going to change our course?
Honestly, I don't even want to get into it because I'm just the kind of person that, as my teachers taught us, you take the good, you leave what's bad. There's people out there, there's definitely good that they can offer. It's maybe bad so just take what's good. Yeah, for me, it's like if you're just going on and you're just going on to waffle and just talk, and especially if you don't come from a place of knowledge. Yeah, it's like if someone's never run their own business before and they open a business podcast, doesn't make any sense. Yeah, someone's never studied Islam before and you go on and start an Islamic podcast. I'm sorry, it doesn't make any sense, right? Just because you're a Muslim, that doesn't give you the qualification to talk. But that's what's happening now. Just got random Muslims talking about Islam, Islamic topics, trying to be controversial for no reason, this, that, and you can tell that they've got a strategy that they want to talk about this particular thing because they know that's what's going to get
That's what is going to tick the controversy and it's going to get the views.
If you don't have the experience, just leave it out. If you don't have business experience, don't talk about business. If you don't have this experience, don't talk about it. If you have some experience in something and you have some value to add, okay, khalas, do it, no problem. But yeah, I think nowadays we're just in a time where it's just about numbers, isn't it? It's about figures and numbers and virality and all of these things. So as long as I can get those views, let's talk about whatever. Me and you could be sat here right now. Before I came, could have researched, okay, what's trending right now? Make sure we use those words.
Yeah. Bro, but, honestly, maybe at one point in the early days, maybe fame did sound quite attractive and, it sounded like, wow, this is cool, to be recognized. But after you've gained a bit of it, you think, what, this is just a headache, man.
It's part of maturing.
Yeah.
When you mature, you realize that's not what you want.
No.
Yeah, and just speak to some of these famous persons. When I say famous person, I'm not talking about a few thousand followers. I'm talking about like tens of thousands, million followers, yeah? It's not a pleasant lifestyle to have. Everywhere you go, you're recognized. Trust me, it's not nice. You think it's cool, but...
I think I want to go for the quiet life, inshallah. I think doing this podcast is taking me the opposite direction. But look, my purpose is to meet people like yourself. I mean, I've met you, I've known you for a while, but we've never had a conversation. We've never actually sat down. And this is my opportunity, not just also share my curiosity with other people, but also in a selfish way, I get to interact because you're never talking to someone with such focus on a one-to-one basis. When I'm on my treadmill, yes, I am very focused because I don't want to fall off that treadmill. But it's a good way to network, good way to get to know someone that you haven't met before and to transfer knowledge, to gain knowledge.
Exactly.
And with that, we're sharing that knowledge with other people. And yes, some people might not appreciate it. Some people, majority of the people do because that's what the views are saying. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
But
good.
It's been an absolute honor and pleasure having you, Brother Shabbir. And I'm sure we will... stay in touch and continue our discussion offline.
Inshallah. There's a lot more, by the way, because like I said, I've done almost 500 nikahs. I've got story after story from weddings.
Give me one that really thought, it was educational for you, and you thought, what? Yeah, I should.
I even say now because there's so many. I've even got categories. I can even write a book on I can even put into a funny category. Inspirational category, dramatic, serious,
give me the inspiration, the one that made you realize, and maybe that will benefit someone else as well. One of those nuggets that you receive
from the nikahs. Yeah. Can I start with a funny one though?
Go on.
I tell you a funny one, right? Just because it's a funny one that I've never actually shared. We're both Bengali, right? So this is my early days of doing nikahs. If you look at me, by the way, a lot of people say I don't look Bengali, right?
Yeah.
So I can go to like an Arab wedding and they think I'm Arab. They think I'm Moroccan or something like that. I go to a Pakistani wedding, they think I'm Pakistani. So I kind of like fit into a lot of things. So when I go to a Bengali one, they kind of assume I'm like Arab or something. They don't assume. So I went to a Bengali nikah wedding and I was sat there before, just waiting for the nikah, and there was like a group of uncles and one of the older uncles. And in Bengali, he starts speaking, thinking that I'm not Bengali, isn't it? He's saying to the ones, is this the, like in Bengali, he's like, is this the mullah? Is this the miyasab? They were like, yeah. Basically, he starts like slagging me off. Like,
what did he say in Bangla? What did he say in
Bangla? I can't remember exactly the wording, but he was basically like, is this the kind of imams we bring nowadays? You know, basically someone young, and they're expecting the older type, Is this the kind of imams that we have nowadays? It's just slagging me off. And I'm just sat there, just listening. I'm like, okay, interesting. I did the whole nikah and everything. And the funny thing is, after you do the nikah, they see it. They're like, okay, that's not
cool.
that bad, right? So I did the whole nikah. And then they're still assuming I'm some Arab dude, And as I'm walking out, I spoke in Bangla, just on purpose.
Allah,
so I was like, I don't know why I said, I was like, something like
God.
that. And their faces dropped. They were like, what? This guy's Bengali. That means he understood every word. I just left like that. It was hilarious. Anyway, so you get that quite a lot. You get some crazy things that happen at weddings. Like there was one I did actually. Man, it was a really hot summer's day. It was an outdoor nikah. This is a shocking one, Outdoor nikah. Beautiful. If I show you pictures, it was amazing. I did the nikah. It was really nice. And then because I was feeling hot, I went to grab a drink. The guy was serving drinks. I went to grab it. He looked at me. He's like, well, you do know that's champagne, yeah?
No.
I was like, what is champagne? I quickly put the glass down. I was like, where's the non-alcoholic drinks? He says, yeah, over there. You can get some lemonade and things. I was like, I'm at a Muslim wedding and there's champagne because there were non-Muslims there. I was like, there's one thing catering for non-Muslims, welcoming them. But then there's like completely, going over the boundaries of and giving alcohol. I was like, that's just, for me, that was shocking. That was one of my worst experiences. The best nikah experience, but the worst in terms of when that happened. Anyway, some inspiring ones that we've done would be like one of the grooms, he took his shahada before the nikah. So he was always planning to become a Muslim. He was not a Muslim. So it was really crazy where I sat with him when we did the shahada. So he became a Muslim. And then a few moments later, we did the nikah and he got married. So in my khutbah, I still remember saying, like, that's the power of words. SubhanAllah, just by saying a few words, you went from disbelief to belief. And then you said another few words, I accept, and you went from unmarried to married. I was like, that's literally the power of words. You can, likewise, a married person can say one word, divorced. A Muslim could say one word, not Muslim anymore. I was like, that's the power of the tongue. You know what I mean? So there's many stories, inshallah, maybe another time we can share.
So what
more.
You're saying is control our tongue and be careful what we say.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, because of the podcasting and the TikToks and stuff like that, I think everyone wants to speak now. Everyone wants the mic. But what we were taught by our teachers is, you should definitely speak less and listen more. That's something I try to do is, listen more to people. So everyone wants something to say now. And we know this is prophetic advice as well.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Now let's end with a quick fire question, inshallah. As brief as possible. Who's your favorite reciter?
I would actually say Sheikh Bandar Balila from Mecca, from the Haram.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is he one of the new ones?
No. He's been there for many years, Sheikh Bandar Balila. He's basically, the reason why I say him, a lot of people get surprised is because some reciters, when they recite, you can feel the meaning coming from it, and he's one of those reciters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Medina or Mecca?
Medina.
So if you were to pick one pair of shoes for the rest of your life, which would it be?
I'm known to never wear trainers. I never wear trainers. You look at the shoes I'm wearing right now. I always wear loafers. Because I generally dress, I like to think anyway, I dress quite smart anywhere I go, whether it's a nikah or an event or anywhere I go. This is normally how I dress. I normally wear a blazer. It's became my look, a thobe and some pair of loafers. So I've never really changed that. I rarely ever wear trainers. Some of my family, when they saw me wear trainers going to like gym or something, they're like, what? You own a pair of trainers? So it's normally just like a pair of smart shoes.
Favorite city in the UK?
I would say London I don't like to live in London, but I like everything else about London in terms of the work, the people, the perks and everything like that. So London, you can't beat London. but I just don't want to live here.
Have you been to other cities in the world where you thought, you know what, London has to be the number one, man? Still,
No. That's a different thing now. When you travel outside of UK, then you think, what is London compared to this? Honestly,
what city would it be outside of London if it wasn't London?
Even you go to Istanbul and you're like, wow. You go Medina. Yeah, I've been to, alhamdulillah, I've traveled quite a bit, and you see other cities and other places. You're like, yeah, this is amazing, man.
No, I was in Medina, I think a year ago, and I was like, wow, this was the center of the world. This was the leadership. This is where it all belonged. Yeah. And wow, like I'm in such a place. Subhanallah.
Yeah, subhanallah.
Amazing. Brother Shabbir, thank you so much for joining us. I hope our viewers will enjoy our conversation today, and perhaps benefit from it, and if not, at least hopefully they will get entertained. Inshallah.
Jazakallah. Appreciate you. Thank you.
And that's it for today on Side by Side. For myself, Kazi Shafiqur Rahman, as your host, and our guest Shabbir Hassan, the founder of the Nikah Co. If you have enjoyed today's episode of Side by Side, please don't forget to share it with your family and friends. Comment below with any questions or guest recommendations. And of course, subscribe to the channel on the platform you are tuned into. It is your subscription that motivates us to keep edging forward episode by episode. And inshallah, with you by our side, we will reach the top.